An EMP doesn't announce itself. No flash in the sky. No explosion. Just a single surgical moment where the entire world goes silent, like someone ripped the power cord out of civilization. You stand there as the city around you collapses into stillness. Engines die in the middle of the road. Phones shut off despite full batteries. Traffic lights freeze. Cameras, hospitals, banking grids, communication towers. Every system you rely on becomes dead weight. This isn't nature. This is warfare. The first strike doesn't target people. It targets their ability to function. You have 30 seconds to recognize what just happened. An EMP blast has wiped every electronic device within hundreds of miles. No internet, no cell towers, no backup generators, no emergency response. Your life is no longer supported by infrastructure. And the truth hits you with cold precision. Survival is now personal. The strongest individuals in the first hour aren't the fastest or the toughest. They're the ones whose gear still works. When technology dies, the only advantage left is what remains operational. All the smart devices you trusted are now silent. All the convenience you built your life around evaporates in an instant. And unless you prepared, you stand no different from the crowds around you, disoriented, helpless, exposed. That's why I'm here. Not to comfort you, to arm you with battlefield clarity. EMPs don't need to kill. They only need to blind, disable, and isolate. Humans will handle the rest. But you will not be a target. Not when you understand the 8 items that keep working when every circuit burns out. 8 tools immune to EMP, immune to chaos, immune to technological collapse. Hold your focus. Absorb every word. These are your rules of survival. A mechanical timepiece is more than a clock. It is a lifeline that cannot be corrupted, jammed, or silenced by an EMP. When every digital device around you flatlines, this one tool keeps its pulse. No circuits, no microchips, no dependency on electricity. Only gears, springs, and precision engineering that continue to function regardless of the electromagnetic chaos tearing through the grid. You wear it on your wrist, not as an accessory, but as a tactical instrument. One that preserves your ability to measure, coordinate, and move with intention when the world loses its sense of rhythm. In the first hours after an EMP strike, time becomes a weapon. Without it, you misjudge daylight, travel windows, patrol rotations, and the moment when danger shifts from chaos to predation. You need structure when everyone else falls into panic. A mechanical watch gives you that. You can plan movement under cover, manage calorie use, pace your travel, and maintain operational discipline. Without a working clock, survival becomes guesswork. Guesswork gets you hunted. This tool also anchors your communication patterns. Even if radios die, even if all long-range signals collapse, you can still synchronize with allies using simple time-based protocols. Rendezvous points, extraction windows, silent coordination that doesn't rely on anything electronic. A mechanical watch turns you from a reactive survivor into a controlled operator. In a post-EMP landscape, the ones who keep time keep control. And control is the only currency left. Fire becomes leverage. Fire becomes security. Fire becomes the single element that keeps you warm, fed, visible when you choose, and invisible when you must. After an EMP event, every electronic ignition source fails without warning. Lighters with electric arcs, plasma torches, even certain butane tools that rely on micro-components. But a ferro rod doesn't bow to electromagnetic force. It operates on physics, not circuitry. Steel meets ferrocerium. Sparks fly at thousands of degrees. And nothing, not EMP, not cold, not moisture, can shut it down. A ferro rod is the ignition source you rely on when everything else is dead. It works soaked, frozen, or battered. It doesn't need fuel. It doesn't run out of charge. Every strike gives you the ability to create flame on demand, and flame is the backbone of long-term survival. You control your core temperature. You sanitize water when purification systems collapse. You harden wooden tools. You signal allies without exposing your exact position. You cook food quietly without relying on volatile fuels. Fire is life, and the ferro rod is the only fire starter that remains loyal through every scenario. But its true power isn't the spark. It's the discipline it forces on you. You slow down. You assess wind, tinder, and terrain. You operate with intention. In a world stripped of technology, this mindset becomes the difference between improvising and prevailing. When others freeze, you ignite. When others wait for rescue, you build capability. You turn a primitive tool into an operational advantage. A ferro rod isn't equipment, it's continuity. When the grid collapses, water becomes the first battlefield. Not bullets, not food. Water. Every electric pump, UV purifier, and digital filtration system goes dark the instant an EMP rips through the region. Faucets run dry. Stores empty in minutes. Wells stop pulling. Entire neighborhoods shift from stability to desperation because they never learned one truth. Clean water is not guaranteed. It is earned, secured, protected. And the only tool that keeps you ahead of that collapse is a manual, gravity-driven water purifier, one completely untouched by electromagnetic failure. A gravity filter needs no power, no battery, no circuitry. You pour contaminated water into the upper chamber, and gravity does the rest. Pathogens, parasites, sediment, and chemical traces are stripped away by physical filtration. Pure mechanics that no EMP pulse can corrupt. While everyone else boils water inefficiently, burns fuel they can't replace, or gambles with sickness, you maintain a steady, silent, renewable supply. And silence matters. Noise draws attention. Fire draws predators. But a gravity filter keeps you concealed while still operating at full capability. In the days following an EMP strike, waterborne illness becomes a hidden killer. Dehydration follows. Weakness grows. Decision-making falters. A single lapse spirals into vulnerability. With a manual purifier, you remove risk from the equation. You stay hydrated, alert, and mobile. You maintain the strength to move, defend, and plan. Clean water stops being a luxury. It becomes a force multiplier. A gravity-powered purifier doesn't just keep you alive, it keeps you operational in a world where most people won't last a week. When an EMP wipes the slate clean, power becomes manual again. Anything that relies on stored electricity dies instantly, but tools driven by your own movement stay loyal. Hand crank gear isn't primitive, it's resilient. It bypasses every vulnerability modern electronics suffer from. No circuits, no batteries, no silicon to burn, just mechanical force converted into usable energy every time you need it, without exception. A hand crank flashlight gives you control over darkness. You generate your own light silently, without relying on fuel or fragile components. In a world where night becomes a hunting ground, visibility is not comfort. It's tactical advantage. You choose when to illuminate and when to disappear. And no EMP can take that choice from you. A manual radio becomes even more critical. While digital comms are annihilated, a crank-powered analog receiver may still capture distant signals, surviving broadcasts, or emergency transmissions from unaffected zones. Information is leverage. Knowing the direction of danger or the movement of crowds keeps you ahead of every threat. Silence kills. Intel saves. Hand-crank chargers, though limited, offer one final edge. They keep non-EMP damaged devices alive. Certain flashlights, tools, and small battery systems can still function if charged manually. In a landscape where every watt matters, even a trickle of power can fuel navigation lights, small sensors, or backup gear. Manual energy keeps your kit alive long after everyone else's tools go dark. Hand-crank systems aren't backups. They are constants, unaffected, unstoppable, unbroken by the electromagnetic strike that ruins everything else. When the grid dies and electronics turn to ash, the fight returns to its original form: steel, wood, tension, and force. Analog weapons don't glitch, don't short out, don't rely on optics or power sources. They operate on your strength, your precision, and your intent. And in a post-EMP landscape, that makes them the only dependable tools of offense and defense. A knife becomes more than a blade. It is a survival platform, cutting cordage, carving traps, processing food, defending your perimeter. No EMP can strip it of function. It never runs out of ammunition. It never fails due to circuitry. It is the one weapon that always fires. An axe gives you mechanical dominance over your environment. You build shelter, breach obstacles, shape wood, harvest fuel, and defend at close range. It is heavy, loud, unforgiving, and absolutely essential. When machines fall silent, manual force becomes the new engine of survival. A bow, traditional, not compound, adds range without dependency. No cams, no sights, no stabilizers that fail under electromagnetic disruption. Just limbs, string, and your training. Arrows can be retrieved, repaired, or remade. The bow remains functional in any climate and under any condition. It gives you the ability to hunt discreetly and defend without revealing your position. Mechanical traps extend your reach. They work when you sleep. They deny entry, capture food, and protect territory. Springs, pressure plates, counterweights, simple physics, zero electronics. They continue doing their job when the world around them collapses. Analog weapons don't ask for permission. They don't need calibration. They answer only to your discipline. In a world stripped of digital power, the simplest tools become the most lethal. When satellites go blind and GPS collapses, most people lose their sense of direction within minutes. They've lived their entire lives relying on glowing screens to tell them where to go, when to turn, and how far they've strayed. An EMP exposes that dependency with brutal clarity. Every digital map becomes a dead image. Every navigation app becomes a blank slate, and the roads themselves turn into traps for anyone who can't read the land. This is where analog navigation becomes a decisive advantage. Paper maps and a magnetic compass, immune to every electromagnetic pulse ever created. A paper map doesn't need a signal. It doesn't buffer. It doesn't fail. It gives you terrain, elevation, water sources, choke points, escape routes, and dead zones without needing a single spark of electricity. It transforms the landscape from a maze into a plan. When crowds panic and follow highways into danger, you cut across back roads, forests, and forgotten paths because you know exactly where each line leads. A compass restores what humans have used for centuries: direction without dependency. North stays north, bearings stay true. It doesn't glitch under stress, doesn't lose calibration from an EMP, and doesn't betray you in the dark. Combined with a map, it becomes a tactical weapon. You can relocate silently, avoid patrols, bypass collapsed zones, and reach resources before anyone else knows they exist. every step becomes intentional. Without analog navigation, you wander, you hesitate, you expose yourself. With it, you move like someone who still has a functioning world inside the ruined one. Direction is survival, and only tools that the EMP cannot touch ensure you never lose it. When power dies, movement stops. Pumps shut down. Pressure systems fail. Airflow, water flow, fuel flow, everything that depends on electricity collapses in the same second the EMP detonates. But the world doesn't pause for you. You still need water from deep containers, air pressure for tools, and the ability to move liquids from one place to another without broadcasting your location. Mechanical power generation becomes the silent backbone of post-EMP operations. Manual pumps, foot pumps, hand pumps, and siphon systems that convert your physical effort into reliable force. A foot pump gives you controlled pressure on demand. You inflate equipment, transfer fluids, and maintain air systems without electricity. It is quiet, fast, and immune to electromagnetic corruption. In a world where noise draws threats, a manual pump keeps you operational while staying undetected. A hand pump does what modern infrastructure can't after the pulse. It moves water. Whether you're drawing from barrels, rain collectors, tanks, or makeshift reservoirs, the hand pump becomes your lifeline. It ensures sanitation, hydration, and mobility when everyone else is stuck waiting for gravity or luck. You decide when water moves, not the grid. Siphon systems take it even further. They require no power at all, only elevation, tubing, and technique. They allow silent fuel transfers, water relocations, and emergency drainage without attracting a single set of eyes. They turn terrain into an asset and give you control over resources others can't even access. Mechanical power generation is more than survivability. It's autonomy. It's the ability to move and operate in a dead world without depending on anything fragile, digital, or exposed. When the grid falls, these systems keep you capable. Force becomes manual. Manual becomes reliable. Reliable becomes survival. When the EMP wipes out every electronic site, every digital optic, every smart firing system, one truth rises to the surface. Only weapons untouched by circuitry remain trustworthy. A firearm with zero electronic components becomes the final line of control in a world where modern systems die without warning. No red dots, no laser sights, no electronic safeties, just steel, mechanics, and your discipline. It fires because physics demands it, not because a microchip approves it. A traditional firearm, bolt-action rifle, pump shotgun, revolver, or a well-maintained semi-auto with purely mechanical internals, keeps its integrity after the pulse. Springs don't fry. Firing pins don't melt. Chambers don't forget their purpose. While electronic optics go blind instantly, iron sights stay true. You maintain accuracy because you trained for precision, not convenience. This advantage becomes more than defense. It becomes deterrence. In the power vacuum after an EMP, predators rise fast. Desperate people become dangerous people, and dangerous people target the unprepared. A mechanical firearm gives you the ability to hold the line, protect resources, secure perimeter, and control distance. It is not a tool of intimidation. It is a tool of stability. A gun that survives an EMP also demands one thing from you: competence. Without electronic assists, your accuracy comes from breath, stance, recoil management, and repetition. You become the guiding system. You become the processor. That responsibility shapes you into an operator instead of a victim. When the world loses its technology, mechanical weapons restore balance. They function in silence. They fire on command. They remain loyal long after digital systems have turned to dust. In the aftermath of an EMP, the weapon that still works is the weapon that decides who walks away. When the electronics die, the world doesn't end. It reveals itself. Every weakness hidden beneath technology becomes exposed. Every dependency you never questioned becomes a threat. An EMP doesn't destroy society in a single blast. It removes the illusion that society was ever stable to begin with. In the silence that follows, there is only one dividing line: those who prepared and those who pray someone else did. You won't be in the second group. Each EMP-proof item you've learned is more than gear. It's an extension of your capability. A mechanical watch anchors your rhythm when the world loses time. A ferro rod gives you fire when cold becomes a predator. A gravity filter keeps your bloodstream clean in a landscape where water turns hostile. Hand-crank tools restore your power when the grid is nothing but a memory. Analog weapons give you force no pulse can steal. Maps and a compass return direction to a world that lost it. Mechanical pumps move life-sustaining resources when everything around you stops. And a purely mechanical firearm ensures that you remain in control of your space, not at the mercy of those who lost theirs. These aren't just objects. They are the last pieces of infrastructure you can trust when the real infrastructure collapses. They don't glitch. They don't fail. They don't panic. They work as long as you do. Survival after an EMP is not about fear. It's about readiness, not about strength, about discipline, not about waiting for rescue, about becoming your own rescue. You don't rise above the chaos by hoping the world will turn back on. You rise by mastering the world exactly as it is, silent, dark, and unforgiving. If you carry the right tools and the right mindset, an EMP doesn't end your story. It just exposes who's capable of continuing it.